Yes. Welcome, everyone. If it's Wednesday and it's noon Eastern time, of course, it means it's always time for the High Noon Hemp Show. Or if you're watching later, live, whatever, you can do so in many places, of course. The Hemptations Beach Facebook page, the Jedi Hemp YouTube channel, and at Hemptations on Twitter, the podcast, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean. Just search the High Noon Hemp Show. I'm, of course, Stoner Jesus. He is Beach, and he is high above the Hemptations in Sharonville, Ohio, at the Hemp Quarters Beach. How are things this week at the beginning of summer in the world of Temptations?
Things are okay. Okay, I guess they're okay. A little sad news in the
Oh.
Hemptations world. We are actually closing the Dayton location.
Ah,
But other than that, things are okay. It is what it is. Welcome everyone to the High Noon Hemp Show. It's true. I am Beach, and I am high above the Sharonville location at Planet Everywhere Studios. I like to say so.
indeed.
But yeah, that's kind of sad news coming out of Dayton, but it is what it is, and it breaks my heart. This is only the second store I've ever closed in 27 years, and so yeah. But we may try to find another location up there. If not, everyone's just going to have to go online and order online. Hemptations.com. Hit the buy there, and most of the stuff that they come in for, I'm going to have up on the website real soon to make it available for everybody. Remember, folks, the FDA has not evaluated the show for safety or efficacy. All right, let's jump right into the product spotlight. The first one here is pretty apropos as we get to summer. We got gardening going on, but if you need a pair of gardening gloves, Top Hand Glove has got your selection. Again, this is the selection in the Sharonville location, which is the best selection probably out there. But again, if you know your hand size and you want a particular pair sent to the O'Brienville or Northside location, just let us know, and we'll do that. Top Hand Gloves, garden gloves. They've got garden gloves, all kinds of good options there for you. D8 Seltzer. I know we've shown this before, just like the garden gloves, but this is pretty popular these days still. Comes in 3 different flavors: black cherry, watermelon, and lemon lime. And again, that's Delta 8. And so if you don't know anything about Delta 8, you might want to give it a whirl. It's hard to say. You might enjoy it. It is a lower scale. It's like a 2 to 3 on the scale of 1 to 10. THCA or Delta 9 is a 9-10. CBD is a 0. Delta 8 is 2, 3, maybe a 4, depending on your tolerance. It might be a 0 if you're a Delta 9 person. How about the Radius toothbrushes? I love my hemp composite. So the handle there is hemp. And as you can see, the top part comes out. It's removable, so you can replace the head and keep the handle. And of course, if you put it in the trash or decide to bury it in your backyard, it should break down pretty naturally one way or another. And so, if you're looking for a toothbrush, we have, I think, soft heads and medium heads. And we do have replacement heads as well. So get yourself a hemp toothbrush. It's a conversation starter. Nothing else. Nothing else. And the last but not least is the various pillow coverings and tablecloths that we have at the Sharonville location. It's funny because I just sold a couple pillow cases to someone in Dayton not too long ago, which kind of reminded me that we had this stuff. And so if you need a tablecloth or maybe some pillowcases, and they're mostly square pillowcases of different sizes. I think there's like an 8-inch and maybe a 10 or 12-inch square pillowcase, and then tablecloths as well in I think various sizes. I should have gotten the dimensions on the tablecloths. I'll find those and get them to everybody next week if they're interested in the dimensions of those very decorative and I need to find the company name. I think I have a couple tablecloths up here that this company made. I feel like they have like kind of a French name even, but I'm not positive. But I couldn't find a tag to find a name, so I'm gonna have to go through them kind of a little bit better. Maybe find the tag, find the company that made them. But good stuff. I think I might have even bought out all their inventory originally. I don't even know if they exist anymore as a company, and I may have just bought what they had for super low prices. To give them to you guys for super low, decent prices. It's true. Now, the one from my door, this is something that I discovered recently. This is, I don't know if you're my age, maybe a little younger, you may remember, I call them trick sticks. But this was a big thing, probably, 20 years ago. Okay. And so what you do is you've got those two black sticks on the left there, and you basically hold the hemp stick, the big long one, like on top of them, and they're, like a foot apart in front of you level. And then you throw it in the air, and you're holding onto the black sticks, but the hemp stick goes into the air. And then, and I can't do this because I'm not left-handed at all. It's almost like juggling. I think you really have to be decent with both your hands to do this. But when you flip it in the air, then you just hit it like at a certain angle, and then you can spin it and do all these tricks with the middle piece. And it's kind of like you're holding the sticks and you're kind of juggling and doing tricks with the big hemp stick that's on the right there. Again, I venture to say that if I would have gone to the Grateful Dead show, this is why we didn't have a show last week. My friends were in town for the Grateful Dead show. I met up with them, and then we all stayed on the boat, and then hung out Wednesday morning. That's why I didn't do the show. And so if I would have gone to the Grateful Dead show, there's a good chance that I might have seen someone still entertaining with these. I don't like to stereotype, but it was a very hippie thing to do. And again, you saw a lot of it at the jam band shows that were huge, around the turn of the century. That was just huge jam bands, and the hippie, not stereotyping, made a huge return in society. And again, that was all kind of around the idea that, again, environmentalism was actually being embraced by the whole world. It's kind of, I don't know, it's still there, but, in the turn of the century, and I just love saying that, turn of the century, the year 2000-ish, it was really a very, I guess we can call it, again, to associate, a very 70s time, in my opinion, and so, this was something, and I had no idea what these were. And of course, we sold these in the store, and I'm just glad that I kept, and I tended to do that. I've got a pretty good collection of some stuff, because I tended to keep at least one thing for myself, my collection. And so here they are, my personal trick sticks, hemp trick. It is just one stick that's hemp. And I believe the other parts are actually recycled tire rubber, which is also very cool. They were probably they may have been made by the Splaff company back at the time even, which made really cool hemp and tire sandals, and I think they still exist. I might have to check out to see if you can still get Splaff, SPLAFF sandals. I think they're still being made, and again, they were hemp and recycled bicycle tire. Super cool. And even the treads. I mean, the treads, or maybe just tire, some type of tire, but the treads, you could tell it was like a bike or something tire. So pretty cool. There you have it. My trick sticks on the product spotlight here on the High Noon Hemp Show.
So, of course, brings us to the as of yet award winning. I checked my email this morning, still no word on any awards for this segment. That's fine. As we approach the 5-year mark of the High Noon Hemp Show, one day we will be recognized for the greatness of what is about to happen. You see, I just asked Beach a simple question, and his answer, well, it's, as I said many times, it's the greatest thing on the internet. All I have to say is this: what are you wearing, Beach?
What am I wearing? I'm going to do this in my best Kermit voice. Green, super green. All based around this shirt, which is going to surprise. Well, I don't know if it'll surprise one and all, but just wait and see. But on top, of course, I've got my normal grassroots hat, being anything but normal. But no, normal, of course, if you don't know, stands for the National Organization to Reform Marijuana Laws. The shirt, one of my craziest bigger name items ever purchased, and it's I probably had this shirt for at least 20 years, and I don't wear it a whole lot just because. But this is an actual Ralph Lauren polo shirt. That's the label.
Ooh la
It
la.
says on the label Ralph Lauren polo. So again, da, 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 da. And of course, Ralph Lauren came out in around the turn of the century as well, and admitted to using hemp in a lot of his linens, tablecloths, and things like that. But the Ralph Lauren has had a line of hemp clothing that, just like Adidas, that they release probably at least once a year. And I haven't checked in a while to see, but between jeans and shirts and other products, Ralph Lauren tends to release some hemp clothing a little bit here and there. Or at least they used to. I have not checked recently to see, and I can only hope, I can only wish, I'll check into it, that they're still going that direction. But that's an official Ralph Lauren polo shirt.
Nice.
And again, with I think the 80s coming around, I'm going to start breaking out all my polos. I can pop my collar again. But anyway, and of course, I've got a pair of Satori shorts on. In my pocket there, you can see my Green Springs Technology Hemptations pen, a pair of Hemptopia briefs underneath it all, and a pair of, these are what I'm going to call my question mark hemp socks, because I forget the brand of these hemp socks, and I need to, I'll go back and I'll find it eventually. I will have to say that this is the first time it's actually worked out that I have dark briefs and white socks. This might be the first color picture of that ever. But as you can see, it works with the Adidas Sambas. I think they're Sambas on my feet there. I tried to find out what year I probably acquired those. But I do think this was my first non-shell toe hemp shoes, which means those Adidas could be 20 years old as well. And again, I'm not much on peacocking, as they call it, because this to me would be like a peacock outfit, which means, hey, look at me, like literally, even with the colors, it even matches kind of the colors of peacock feathers. I'm not really a person that says, hey, look at me, but this is a pretty good outfit to go out in. Conversation starter either way. If people know me, they're like, is that shirt hemp? Is that Ralph Lauren? No. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. On the High Noon Hemp Show, what are you wearing, Beach?
Indeed.
It's not easy being green. I used to be able to do Kermit pretty good, but I think in my older age, I've lost my ability to do Kermit the Frog. It's one of my favorite green characters ever as well. All right, well, let's watch a little movie trailer that I made back in the day just for fun. This is just for fun. The movie is really not coming. But let's take a look at this, and then we'll come back with some news.
was exciting. Goodness. Oh, now we cannot hear you for some reason. Can you hear me, Beach? Because I cannot hear you. Hello, hello? Hello, hello? Your audio is gone now for some odd reason. Why that is, I don't know. Everything's good on my end. Something has gone horribly wrong. I don't know. Nothing is working. Your audio is gone. Why that is, I don't know. Oh, something happened.
Hey, is that better? Is that better? Are we on?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Well,
That is weird.
man, super freaking again. I touched nothing. I just sat here. I promise you, folks.
Yeah, I have no idea what that was.
All right. Well, okay. Here we are, back again for another turn. All right. Well, let's get on with some good news. Good news, bad news. All it's mostly good. The Industrial Hemp Act has been introduced to the House of Representatives. And really, and this is kind of cool, and I've been talking about this, and this is a movement that needs to happen. I think, and I need to look more into it, but basically, what I think this is going to do is make it easier on anyone that wants to grow for grain or fiber. It really sounds like the way they're describing it is they want to separate industrial hemp into floral growth or growing for the flowers, CBD, CBG, whatever, and fiber and grain growth. And, you know, we've been talking about this for a while. Not that the floral growth, in my opinion, it should all be the same, but if they're going to do anything, they need to do this, which is take all regulations, all testing regulations, all fees, licensing, all of that away from growing if you're going to grow for grain or fiber. Okay, this is an end product issue, to be honest with you. So at the end of the day, um, you know, and again, we don't need to test. We don't. They don't test for THC levels in Canada for their grain. They don't test for THC levels in China for their fiber. Okay, so there's no reason for us, if you're an American farmer, if you're going to grow for grain and you're buying grain seed, it's different. Okay, it's not the same as the CBD seed. We know that, and so if you're buying grain seed, that just you're fine. You're just a farmer growing a crop. Okay, if you buy fiber seed for to grow for the fiber, you're just a farmer growing a crop. Okay, you buy CBD seed or CBG seed, a cultivar that's known for that, then you're under different regulations. Um, you know, again, that being said, I don't agree that everything needs to be different. You know, you can't get high from CBD, you can't get high from CBG. There's zero reason why the plant itself is criminalized, and that's basically what they're trying to do here is, you know, like non-criminalize the attitude towards industrial hemp because it's still an issue. If you're a farmer in Ohio and you've got someone that wants to buy fiber or grain for food product, you're not going to pay $1,000 a cultivar to grow it. You're not going to pay. You're not going to at the end of the year work out it getting tested, which is what you have to do now. Okay. Um, and so it's a ridiculous set of circumstances, especially for the fiber and grain grower. For the CBD grower, the CBG grower, CBN grower, you know, that's different. A little different, but not really, in my opinion. Because again, there's no euphoria, there's no buzz, there's no street value. Okay, there's no black market street value to CBD flower.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to criminalize it like they have. And this is really why they've, you know, how they've criminalized the entire industrial hemp industry as far as farming in the United States. Is they've made it the whole thing, and again, it's because when it became legal, which is crazy, it was the CBD thing is really what was kind of driving it. It wasn't because there was everyone wanted to grow for fiber or everyone wanted to grow for grain, even though there's great money in grain. We know this from Canada. There's still really good money in growing for hemp grain. Hemp fiber, we're seeing more and more contracts being made to grow for hemp fiber for clothing or whatever, car parts, because you can use the grain or the seed oil and the fiber together in a composite that is lighter and just as strong as fiberglass. And it's fiber hemp, we'll call it. Fiber hemp composite. It's a solid. It's what BMW is using on their door panels in the electric vehicles. And I just found some other vehicles I think that are like one was and I knew Mercedes and they've been using hemp composite on their vehicles like a sunroof part for 25, 30 years. Just one sunroof part was made out of hemp composite. BMW used the same thing with like a weird part. I feel like I saw a picture of like a vent or something for a vehicle, like an air vent or an air conditioning vent that was made out of industrial hemp, composite. And so, this is how we replace most of the plastic. And again, all I'm hearing these days is getting rid of plastic by 2040. That's most of the conversation right now, is removing most of one-use plastic or I forget how they talked about it. And again, even the recycling part, again, it's not as much an issue as whether the plastic can be recycled at this point when it comes to me. I'm great and I recycle all my plastic because that's great. We don't need the plastic to begin with. When you make plastic, when you make plastic out of oil, you have synthetic waste that the planet can't do anything with. Okay, and of course, if you don't recycle the plastic, then it can sit in a landfill for hundreds of years. And of course, you have now the microplastics that they're finding, and I just reported on this, from the tallest mountains in the world to the lowest seas, and they're finding these microplastics because it does not break down, and there's no animals. It's not natural. Okay, and so the best thing we can do is recycle it, because at least we're using it again for something. But eventually, you come to an end, and guess what? That product is still not really earth friendly at all. I don't care how many times you've recycled it or reused it. And again, right now, what we need to start doing is not making any more plastic out of oil. Recycling all we can until it's done, but again, we estimate we could replace 60 to 70% of the plastic in the world with hemp composite of some sort. And this is also, just not having, there's so much plastic in packaging. We just need to go back to a world where we don't have so much senseless packaging, which was really invented more for security reasons than anything else. We came up with this whole plastic. Again, remember the famous line from the movies in the 70s, or plastics. I got one word for you, plastics, and it's true. It's like, we really started making plastic efficiently, and then all of a sudden we had to look for things, all these things that we needed to use plastic for when we really didn't need to. And that was the 80s, and it came to packaging, in my opinion. And again, a lot of that was security. You can take a little product that people could steal easily and put it in a big plastic thing that you couldn't steal as easily, and that's all. That's the only reason for plastic packaging, period, was theft. And again, we've got all this plastic in the world just due to lazy observing people. And I get it, it's much easier for Walmart to keep track of all their stuff if it's in these big plastic packages that you can't stuff under your shirt. But we need to do it better. We need to do something better. You know, even if it's a big paper, a hard or paper something that, you know, again, that's made out of hemp too. Of course, I don't want to make it out of paper if they're going to make the paper out of the trees. So that's another terrible idea. Let's just use either hemp paper, which we're seeing hemp paper packaging coming around, and hemp composite, bim bam boom. You know, all is better. So we'll see what this Industrial Hemp Act. I'm going to look a little bit more into it. You know, again, I tend to pay attention to these things a lot, like I do my Kentucky basketball. Until it actually gets signed or they're on the court, there's no real reason to talk about it. I've talked about 3 different bills. You know, the MORE Act still sits on the House. It still sits on the floor, and they introduced it 2 years ago, probably. You know, just because you introduce a bill or something does not mean it gets voted on. Doesn't mean it even gets discussed. Okay, I think you have to have. I don't know how all that works, but you know, it's just a bill and sitting on Capitol Hill, you know, until it gets passed. And so, you know, I'll look into it and really see, but it's very positive. It's very positive as to what they're trying to do. And this is, you know, even if something like this gets introduced, you know, hopefully they would have, I would have wished they would have introduced it earlier so that maybe it could push something in the Farm Bill, which I have not heard any changes to industrial hemp in the Farm Bill yet, but I have not, you know, I haven't really seen what's going on. The Farm Bill should be, I would guess, honestly, being worked out and signed pretty soon, if my timetables are correct. I know it's always an odd year, even though I think they take, well, it's weird because it's supposed to be up in 4 years, but they take 5. It usually works out to 5 years when they vote, which is kind of weird. I don't know how all that math works, but it's funny math for sure. Maybe it's that this Farm Bill is actually, no, because 2018 was the last one. So if they sign this one, it's going to be 2023, I'm almost sure. But it was 2014. That was the first one. So even if they sign it, I bet it'll still be the 2022 Farm Bill. So somehow when they finally work it out in 2023, it won't be the 2023 Farm Act bill. It'll be 2022 because it was 2014. Or no, maybe it was 2013. I am completely wrong there. It was. So it is every 5 years. So I'm sorry. So it will be 23. So that math works out right. I think it is every 5 years they do a Farm Bill, which I guess that means that, you know, you always have the chance of having a different leadership for every Farm Bill instead of having the same leadership for both, you know, if it might work out that way, which I don't understand either because politics should have nothing to do with the Farm Bill. I get it. You know, this is something that we do. It is something that's done every 5 years, regardless. And again, it should be nonpartisan. Again, there should be no politics when it comes to farming. No politics when it comes to farming in the United States. It's just common sense says that. But, you know, here we have this political act that has to happen or does happen every 5 years. But again, the politics should not be involved. Anyway, so. Speaking of politics and government bodies involved in things they shouldn't be, I'm seeing a lot of talk about the DEA is going to do this and the DEA is going to do that. I want to remind everyone, the DEA does not write laws, okay? The DEA cannot say that Delta 8 extracted from industrial hemp is illegal. They can't, okay? They can say that Delta 8's illegal because if it comes from marijuana, it is illegal, okay? And this is the tricks they play, and this is the tricks they will play to make these things sound like they aren't what they really are. You know, they can come out and say things that aren't a lie, but sound like there's something totally different. And that is just that. The DEA comes out and says, Delta 10 is illegal. and we will be enforcing Delta 10 laws and blah, blah, blah. Well, only if that Delta 10 came from what they call marijuana. Okay, that's what the government, what the DEA calls marijuana. Once again, if that Delta 8, that Delta 10, that THCA, which we call Delta 9, so you're going to see it called THCA more because it's not as big as calling it Delta 9. That's the biggest one there is. We can legally get that from industrial hemp. It's right in the Farm Bill, 0.3% per plant. Okay, now you take all those 0.3% per plants and you extract it all, it's 100% legal. Okay, any extracts or anything manufactured or processed from industrial hemp is legal. So if you take something out of an industrial hemp flower and you turn it into Delta 8, it's 100% legal. You turn it into Delta 10, and they're calling these synthetic. And again, the only reason they're calling them, in my opinion, they're synthetic is because you're using science to you are changing one thing into another thing. So they're taking some cannabinoid, some chemical compound that's in the flower, and they're changing it into Delta 8. They're changing it into Delta 10. But guess what? It still came from industrial hemp. It was extracted from, manufactured, processed, whatever you want to describe it, from there, regardless of whether it's synthetic. And just because it's described as synthetic doesn't make it bad like synthetic plastic or synthetic fiber, because it's not made from oil. Well, it is possibly made from oil, but it's not the oil that comes out of the ground. It's the oil from the cannabis plant. It's a cannabinoid or something from the cannabis plant. Okay, so it's natural. So it's naturally synthetic, which just sounds completely wrong. And I'm really going to have to look up the definition of synthetic now, because I really feel like the definition that they're trying to use is something made from something else. So, if you just turn something into something else, then it's synthetic. So, that's, and again, it has a negative connotation, I believe, to environmentalists. The word synthetic has a negative connotation to environmentalists. What's really funny is they describe it, they try to use it in a negative thing to the public, but I don't think the public really has a bad view of synthetic. If they're wearing polyester, that's synthetic. If they use plastic in any way, that's synthetic. And so I don't know that the world really looks at the word synthetic as bad. Environmentalists, we tend to look at the word as bad because we were stereotyping the process of synthesizing into it came from probably oil drilled from the ground. There's an interesting line there. But that's what the DEA also has tried to do, and of course they got checked. When they came out and they said DEA isn't legal, we said you're 100% wrong, and they stopped. Now they're just kind of going after like HHC, which is, again, it's instead of THC, you have HHC, which is hydrolyzed tetrahydrocannabinol. It's like hydrolyzed hydrocannabinol, which I don't, again. And so, but it takes a chemical process to make HHC out of industrial hemp. So that's another one they're calling synthetic and trying to go after. Okay. The DEA does not write laws. They have policies that they follow. Okay. But they don't write the laws. And so the DEA, as soon as the DEA goes after an industrial hemp, Delta 10 company or something, they're gonna immediately be checked and they're gonna immediately stop. Or an HHC, whatever it is that they're trying to do. Once again, if it comes from industrial hemp, it's 100% legal, and the DEA has no say over that whatsoever. But as more of these so-called synthetic cannabinoids, cannabinols, cannabis stuffs, cannabinoids, are coming about, And again, these are all naturally occurring, but not in high enough numbers in the flower to get what they really want. That's why they're synthesizing or changing one cannabinoid into another cannabinoid. And so, uh, the DEA can say whatever they want, and they tend to. And again, and like I said, they can say HHC is illegal, and that's all they have to say, and because they're not lying. They're 100% not lying when they say that, because under their policies, under the regulations that they follow and um, go after people for, if you got your HHC from marijuana, yes, that's still federally illegal. So, but don't think that they're going to be able to come after the industrial hemp, and all they're really going to do is promote things that we get from industrial hemp that are 100% legal. And go from there. States have to change their laws on this stuff before really anything can happen. And then the DEA would have nothing to do with that. Only the state law would have something to do with that. And so until the federal government changes their industrial hemp laws, the DEA has no say in any of that stuff. So tough luck, DEA. Keep trying, though. I know you're still going after those big budgets when it comes to cannabis, but just give it up.
Yeah.
Give it up. We need to take the entire, or like probably 70% of the DEA budget, cut their budget, cut all of their going after cannabis, let them go after all the other stuff they really need to. Go after the fentanyl. How about that? I have no problem with that. Even though I do believe all drugs should be legal, and if all drugs were legal, we wouldn't have the issues with the hard drugs that we do, because they'd be regulated and clean and safe, and people could do them and blah, 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 blah. The government doesn't want that either, because the more fentanyl overdoses we have, guess what? The bigger the DEA budget gets to be. The only reason that there aren't as many fentanyl overdoses now is because the makers of street drugs they're cleaning it up. Has anyone ever heard of a huge fentanyl bust in the United States yet? But people are dying less from it. Why? Because the people that are making the drugs are smart enough to know that, guess what? A dead person can't buy more drugs. So they take it to the edge. And this is the same as the stuff that happened with cocaine in the 80s. In my opinion, cocaine was just fine until a bunch of people started dying because they tried to start making it as strong as they could, and the human body couldn't take it. Then all of a sudden, cocaine gets cleaned up, not by the government. The DEA didn't have anything to do with it. It was the makers of the cocaine that realized, once again, if we kill everyone that uses our substance, we don't have anybody to sell it to.
Yeah.
And so they really regulate themselves. The DEA's budget is 100% wasted, in my opinion. Just wasted. It's not the way to solve the problem if drug use really is a problem. And I'm not saying that people have issues. If you can't, support yourself because of your habit, I don't care what habit it is, then you might have an issue. But guess what? We don't call homeless people. We don't arrest them for being homeless.
Yeah.
And not, supporting the system, and it's a ridiculous way. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 or more. No one's drug problem was ever solved by going to jail. It wasn't, and it never will be. So, DEA, stop messing with the industrial hemp and, go away. Just go away. Let's throw up this 10-minute porridge recipe. This looks pretty interesting, I think, decently simple. So, and again, this was part of some health page, and I forget what it was all about now, why it was on here. But as you can see, it's got a 1/4 cup of hemp seed, which that's a decent amount of protein in a 1/4 cup of hemp seeds one way or another. So I think you want to make yourself some 10-minute porridge, street or screen save this and make it whenever you want to. So, all right. We'll go right into another picture. The world's first hemp trekking poles are being made. Apparently, that's I'm always a little skeptical when world's first. Especially a plant that's been around for 10,000 years. I picture some guy or woman, like 4,000 years ago, trekking through the Himalayas with 2 hemp stalks, which I think would be the original hemp. I don't know how. I think that they would be good for a season. Honestly, I think they would. A fresh hemp stalk, decently sized, would probably make a great walking stick for at least 6 months until it finally started to weaken and break down. But these are made of hemp composite. Not wood or metal or anything else. And so again, probably much better for the planet one way or another. And, pretty cool. We love our hemp composite stuff. So, and this company is Leki or Leaky, Leki is the name of the company that's coming out with these. So. Good job. Yet another product that no one knew we needed, but yet I think we did. Made out of hemp. No doubt about it. Oh my gosh. I guess I put all my pictures back to back. So I've been showing the Nikes because I know they've been coming out with some new styles. Now, what's interesting again is this is hemp and suede, which just drives me nuts because it's like... why make the suede or make it out of fake hemp or make it out of real hemp? I'm sorry, make fake suede out of real hemp. Okay, because it just seems so contrary to use hemp and cow together, in my opinion. But I get it. But I do like the fact that these hemp uppers, which you can see, is kind of a unique hemp material. And Nike did this, the dunks that I have, and I know I just wore them, and I don't think I really showed closely the material. Go back on one of the last couple shows, you might see it. But you can see how the hemp that they used was a very unique weave. It wasn't just a standard canvas where you really couldn't tell. It's really like they're using weaves to say, hey, this is hemp, this is different, which I really like. I'd really like to see a more solid shoe, or again, not suede. Use hemp on the other parts as well. But this does show me that, again, I think that we're going to see a bunch of hemp Nike stuff come around again, just like we did 15 years ago with a unique material, and usually color patterns and whatnot. So we'll see if they try to release a jacket again, or a hat or hats. Adidas has made some hemp hats. I have a Nike hat that never went to market because it was part of their green prototype stuff. I have a Nike jacket that I'm not sure ever went to market that has hemp on it because it was part of the prototypes they were making. Now all that stuff's out there now. I'm going to start watching eBay again and see if it starts showing up. The prototype stuff, not the actual stuff that makes it to the market. So anyway, this is one of the newer dunks. And I don't know, I want to say that the dunk was the first hemp shoe, but then they also did the running shoes, and I don't know which one came first. The hemp Nike running shoe or the hemp dunks. I'll have to do a little research on that, see if I can find out the history of the hemp Nike, so to speak, one way or another. What you'll notice, and it wouldn't surprise me if you look at the tongue of this Nike, is that it's made in Vietnam, because I have noticed that most of the hemp line from Nike is made in Vietnam, not China. So I don't know if it's better or worse, but you know, it is what it is. All right. Just so you know, and I do want to clarify this, everyone I think has heard of Manila hemp. Okay. For the record, Manila hemp is not hemp. Okay. Manila hemp comes from a plant called Abaca, ABACA. And so, and again, it's also, I think, described as a color. Like you'll see Manila hemp envelopes. It doesn't mean it was actually made out of this plant either. It's just a certain color. Just like hemp has become a color description. You kind of have to be careful sometimes as to what you're purchasing online, because a lot of times they will use hemp as a color description, not a material. And I think that's the same with Manila hemp. And what I think is interesting is it comes out of the Philippines, I believe, and they were talking about the Philippines' long history of making rope out of either jute or Manila hemp, which leads me to believe that industrial hemp, or cannabis hemp, is not indigenous to the Philippines and was never really brought into the Philippines. And of course, it was not indigenous to the United States, and that makes sense because of how things happened as the Europeans traveled over here. And so we brought hemp to the Americas. The Europeans did. And so it was not here before, regardless of what anyone thinks. And I've seen some people try to say that Native Americans did grow hemp, but after we brought it here, did they adapt it? There was I think the Telekanda, there was a tribe that was actually later known as the hemp wearers, because they started growing hemp and then making clothing out of them that they did not do before. So just remember, Manila hemp, not hemp. A study is showing that CBD and terpenes, certain terpenes, can get you an extra 50 minutes of sleep a night. The average person gained about 23 minutes of what they call slow wave sleep, which is your deep sleep, and they gained about 27 minutes of REM, which is your sleep or your dreaming sleep. And so by using this particular, and it was, I have to say, the list of terpenes, and I would have listed them, it was pretty much all of them that I have seen. I think there were at least 7 terpenes, but it was only 1 gram each of each one of these terpenes. So we're basically getting about 7 grams of terpenes along with the CBD mixture. Now, it was a 300 milligram CBD. They made it sound like it was like 300 milligrams total. So it would have been 307 milligrams total. And they use these over certain days, not in one sitting. I mean, I guarantee you use 300 milligrams of CBD, you're going to get an extra 50 minutes of sleep. I only use about 20 to 30 a night, and I think that I get an extra 20 to 30 minutes of good sleep. I usually wake up a little later if I do my CBD. And so, either way, this is adding to, we're going to see more terpene research, and we're going to find out exactly how certain terpenes do, in fact, either act on their own to do things or act in conjunction with CBD or THC or CBN or CBG. This is what they call the entourage effect. This is full spectrum. When we talk about full spectrum, because with full spectrum, we don't take anything out. So the full spectrum CBD or full spectrum anything, contains whatever the terpene was from that plant, contains other natural cannabinoids, THC included, that 0.3% or whatnot. And so, terpenes are mostly known as flavoring in the cannabis world because the terpenes are what give cannabis its flavor. Now that, once again, doesn't mean that they don't have therapeutic value. It just means we can tell by the plant what terpenes are in it. Or at least, if there's a strong one that's there. Because, you got pinene, which tastes kind of piney. You got the citrus, you got, and I'll go ahead and acquire a list of and again, I think the most common I see is there's about 7 really predominant terpenes in the cannabis world. Beta carox, or I can't pronounce them because they all got kind of different names, scientific names. And once again, we're finding, and here's another study showing that maybe certain terpenes. Of course, this one's kind of tough because there were so many terpenes in this that it's hard to say whether it was this terpene or that terpene or all the terpenes that then helped the CBD or worked on their own to give you better sleep. Again, this is more science that we're going to work out as we go along with these things. And, terpenes are next in line for, figuring out exactly what they do, if anything. And then, of course, we're already using them. If you see a disposable cart and it's described as an indica or it's described as a sativa, chances are, okay, that doesn't mean that if it's an indica, it's going to make you sleepy, or if it's a sativa, it's going to bring you up. That's just that they used the terpenes from an indica to flavor it. And, once you isolate, so if you've got just Delta 8 in a disposable, there's no reason to describe it as an indica, in my opinion, because it's only Delta 8. And it's all the other cannabinoids and the terpenes and everything else that gives indica its down feeling, its mellow feeling. It's the cannabinoids and the terpenes and the other chemicals in sativa that kind of give you an uplift. Okay, again, that entourage effect, that full spectrum gamut of chemicals that, when put together, do a particular thing known to that particular plant. And again, we're starting to isolate these and figure out what does what and what. And we're going to have all kinds of different mixtures to get people what they want to get the therapeutic value specifically out of those particular chemicals. And again, for the most part, it is all natural. It's all coming from a natural substance. The pharmaceutical companies have to still legalize cannabis before they can synthetically say make Delta 8 to sell it to anyone as a drug. Haha. So, that is what it is. But it doesn't surprise me at all. Because the terpenes may not have had anything to do with the sleep study. It could have just been the CBD that, because I break it down. A third of our customers use CBD for sleep issues, probably, roughly. So, all right. How about a little gin? Again, this is India. So I don't know if this is probably not available in the United States, but nothing screams that it came from India more than it just says gin on the bottle. But this is basically, they're saying India, one of the most populated countries in the entire world, this is their only hemp infused gin available. And they're not, here's the deal. Indians are not big drinkers, really. I spent a little time over there. And although we did drink some, it was called 8 p.m., I think, whiskey, really bad. It's like we just did a couple shots. They don't they tend not to drink to get drunk. I don't think, like we tend to do here. Um, but we definitely see more and more hemp stuff coming out of India. Um, and so gin, India's only single shot distilled hemp gin. And it had, I think, like lavender in it, and a couple other things I thought were interesting, but not a big gin fan. I don't know. I mean, maybe a martini. It's hard to say. Be worth trying, though. I do think that I have, or there exists in the United States, a gin made from hemp that is non-alcoholic.
Huh.
And so, because there's a whiskey that I found made. I think they use hemp in that's non-alcoholic, and a tequila even non-alcoholic tequila that's made with hemp seed. It's some way or another. And I have a jar of one of those somewhere, and now I don't know. I'm like racking my brain as to where those are. I'm gonna have to find it. And so it seems like hemp is popping up in a lot of non-alcoholic drinks, liquor type stuff. It's non-alcoholic, as well as alcoholic. We've got the vodka company out of Texas, the big one that's can't think of their name right now, but they're getting semi famous for their hemp vodka. So, and I know I had it on the show when they came out with it probably a year or so ago. So go back and watch all the old ones, you'll find it. Because remember, we're on YouTube. All the episodes are on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Watch any one of the 200 plus episodes of the High Noon Hemp Show on YouTube anytime you like. So here is yet another plant, the Brazilian Trema micranthia plume plant, which they say is a shrub that grows like a weed, no pun intended, as they quote from them, but it contains CBD. And so, this is the first announcement, and there's only one person that's actually saying this, and they've tested the plant, so to speak, and they're going to do more testing to find out whether it's really true. But again, apparently this just grows in the wild in Brazil, and contains CBD. I don't know if it was in the flowers, the leaves, the plant. I don't know, where that CBD was, or how much. They didn't say really, And again, I think it's because this is very new, and what we may find is that it is not true. We've seen this before, and then after science actually gets a hold of things, we see that it is in fact not really true. So, but this is the second plant in a month that apparently contains cannabinoids. The first one, it was a lettuce, some type of lettuce, and it contains CBG, which is becoming semi-popular in the cannabinoid world. And so, we'll see what's really out there and if it's really true or not. Because I think they tried to say a couple years back, somebody was trying to say they were getting their CBD from like orange peels or some really weird thing. And come to find out, it was not true, and the product was pulled, and no one ever mentioned again that you could get CBD from this particular plant that wasn't cannabis. So we'll see if you can really get CBD from a weed. Well, wait, isn't cannabis a weed? Oh, that's only to some people. Here's a very interesting chart. Now, this chart was really talking about how, and this is why. So when cotton and hemp in the late 1800s were really kind of starting to compete with each other as a fiber plant, the cotton engine or cotton gin was invented, and it made it much easier to process the cotton. Whereas a hemp decortator didn't come along until a little bit later, which made it much easier to break the hemp stalks to get to the fiber. So cotton, it's kind of where cotton started to make a move on hemp actually here in the United States as a fiber was the late 1800s because of technology. Now, this is kind of a chart as to how hemp breaks down as far as the biomass of the cellulose for fiber. Now, you can see all the way on the left, this is, I guess, the traditional way of extracting fiber, which is breaking the stalk and just having the fiber. And it looks like it's like in the 70s for the amount of cellulose. Then what I guess they did was is they used steam and steam and hydrothermal ways of treating. I'm sorry, hydrothermal treated or wet oxidized is on top, and steam exploded. Steam exploded on the bottom. And as you can see, they got a whole they brought it all up into the 80s as far as the cellulose, and really dropped those other parts, which is lignin and let's see, you have cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, NCWM, which I'm not sure, I'll have to look at, and ash, as far as the content of what's, I guess, left over or comes out of that stalk when you extract the fiber. Now, I don't know what happens when they do this. What happens to that shiv, that outer part, which we know we use in construction material or bedding? Is that part of the cellulose that they're talking about? Is it not just the fiber? Is it all of that, or is that cellulose just the fiber that you get? And again, that's you get up into the 80s. To me, that seems like that's pretty efficient as far as growing something and getting as much as you can out of it, I suppose. And of course, I said that once we made it legal here, then we will start tweaking all this ancient machinery that's been around for hundreds of years, as far as processing hemp fiber. And that is, in fact, what we're doing. We're basically, coming up with huge decortators, these big machines. You just throw the hemp in there, and it breaks it down into every part. Here's what I know: lignin can be used. I think that whatever is left over there, including the ash, should be able to be used in something else. It's not like that's really actually waste material, because I know that we should be able to use that lignin, in my opinion, because lignin is, I believe, a bonding agent, if I remember correctly. So we should be able to use, I think that, why isn't there industrial hemp lignin glue made or something? I don't know. But I do believe that, once again, you should be able to use all those other byproducts as well, no matter how much you get out of it. Okay, one more. Let's show the Ardeal hemp jacket. And this is 100% organic grown in Transylvania. And of course, you can screen shoot it if you really. I put the website kind of there. You can barely see it, but it's called the Ardeal Dionescu hemp jacket. It actually looks like like a nice jean jacket. I have a couple of nice. I've got a natural color jean jacket, and I have a jean color jean jacket, I believe, made out of hemp. And again, 100% hemp, which is perfect. It should be somewhat naturally water resistant at first. If you stood in the rain with it, it would probably absorb it. But honestly, I think if you went out in a light rain in a 100% canvas jacket, the water would probably roll off of you until it started to soak in, because hemp is naturally water resistant. And then, of course, it becomes stronger underwater, which is why it was used on all naval vessels and sails and everything for hundreds and hundreds of years in this world. So there you have it. there's all the hemp news fit to speak about today. Not too many events going on. 628, 629 coming up next week. You've got the Ohio Kentucky Hemp Expo at the Duke Energy Center. August 1st is the medical marijuana meetup, so we got another month or so, but at Mad Tree, I'll talk about more of that. And of course, August 16th and the 18th, I have some more information on the Southern Hemp Expo. It is in Nashville, I was correct, and it's at the fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. And again, that's August 16th and the 18th. So make your plans for that. It's probably the second largest. I haven't been to the Southern Hemp Expo, but it's probably the second largest hemp expo behind NOCO, which is put on by the same people, but on this part of the country. So, to get the people in the Midwest working in there. So if you're interested in that, by all means, check it out. I might even, this year I might even go down myself. It's hard to say. I always say that, and I haven't been down to one yet, but I would like to get down to a Southern Hemp Expo. And Nashville's like right around the corner, honestly. That's a super close drive from here, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
There's really no reason not. It's only like 4 hours, I think. I think I can get to Nashville in 4 hours. So maybe this year will be the year I decide to go down. Maybe I'll take Mary down there for her birthday. It's right around that time. It's hard to say. So, all right, folks. Well, again, no questions out there. You can ask me anything, anytime, and I will hopefully answer it. And again, my beach thoughts have been put pretty well. I have no specific beach thoughts to close the show. So remember, everybody, reduce, reuse, recycle, make everything else out of hemp. Happy temptations.
See y'all next week.